Hey guys, Ariel here with a quick tip on a free way to fertilize your flowers and veggies and stuff. Now, if I don't get rained out here, there's a big black cloud coming, even though the sun is shining right at the moment. All my weather comes from over the mountain that direction, so I can't see it till it pops over the treetops. But if I don't get rained out here, this is what I want to show you. I do fertilize occasionally my flowers and herbs, which are around the house, and sometimes the veggies or berry bushes or those kinds of things. And I'm somewhere between cheapskate and frugal, and so I don't want to spend extra money for this. I have never tested my soil here, but the hayfield that is right beside me was tested, and it was basically low in nitrogen. That was the only thing that was really missing. And just if you're going to grow a lot of foliage on almost any plant, that requires nitrogen. Now there's sometimes you may not want excess nitrogen if you're trying to get something to fruit, because it can encourage more leaf growth and not fruit growth. But in general, if you're trying to grow leaves, which is a lot of what I can grow here, I grow all kinds of kales and chards and beets and so on, nitrogen is usually helpful. And if something's looking kind of yellow, especially if you've got like a back to Eden garden where the wood chips are often pulling out for the first several years, absorbing and taking out all the nitrogen in the soil, things will get a little yellow, and this is a good way to help fix that. But things could also be yellow for other reasons, like they're standing in water. Speaking of which, and looking at this weather, we have had an absolutely insane amount of rain around here in the last couple weeks, for an area that normally averages like an inch a month in the summer. We got 4.5 inches in 48 hours. I know for some of you guys that's nothing at all, and that would be very normal, but for here that is really insane. Things are sopping wet, things are an almost unreal shade of green for the most part. So I probably wouldn't even need this at the moment. Nothing is looking bad, but I just want to keep it all producing as heavily as I can because my summers are so short, and I do take a lot of greens and everything off of things. So a lot of things I'm picking greens and coming back again and picking more. So I want them to be growing very vigorously. So I use urine from my composting toilet. Now mine is a commercial Nature's Head one, so it automatically separates liquids and solids. So I have bottles that I have to empty anyway of pure urine. If you have a homemade composting toilet, some of them don't separate. You can make ones that do. If you want more info on my composting toilet, I've got a whole bunch of videos with details about that. But either way, even if you use a regular flush toilet, you can go pee in a bucket. Guys, this is probably easier. Women, I promise you, you can pee in a bucket too. So I've got a bottle of urine. Urine, when it comes out of your body, is somewhat has an odor, but it is sterile, and there's nothing wrong with using it. Now you can find different proportions for dilution. If you put pure straight urine, like you go pee on a place in the lawn, like you can see this if you're around anywhere where there's dogs that pee in the lawn. Right in the center of where they peed, everything looks dead, and around it the grass is like 4 times taller than the rest of the yard. That's because it was too concentrated right where they peed, and it did kill the plant, and then it kind of burnt it, and then all around it got just diluted enough that it made things grow wonderfully. So I want to do the second part and not the first part. So I'm not going to pour straight urine on anything unless it's like around the base of a large tree or something that is already very mature, and I'm not putting it on directly on a small plant. But for almost everything else, some things can take it a little stronger, some can need it a little weaker. I find about 10 parts to 1 to be a really good proportion for almost anything, and then I don't have to worry about which exact plant is going to be drawing that up. And I don't exactly measure this because, kind of like my cooking, I don't like taking the time to measure things very super accurate. But I've got, these are 4-gallon buckets. That was actually a little too full. If you live anywhere close to a restaurant, you can usually get buckets like this, or 5-gallon ones or whatever, often for free, because a lot of restaurants get various food things in buckets, and they're constantly getting more, so they have to constantly get rid of buckets. Or you can probably buy buckets at your local hardware store, but it's usually not too hard to find them for free. And if you're wondering about the sound quality, there is a breeze. It's not usually windy at my house, but there is a storm blowing in. There is a breeze. I don't have a separate mic. We are outside. You can probably hear the creek down there, and you can hear the breeze. And so that's the way it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to eyeball this. I don't know if you can see in here, but my water level is, well, it's right about there right now. And if I think about this whole thing as being a full bucket, well, just shy of the top, let's maybe say to here. And I think about that as dividing into 10 parts. I'm going to say, well, that's half and half. So I need to divide each of these in fifths, you know, and kind of visualize that. I'm going to put like that much urine in with this water, and I'm going to assume that that is about 10 to 1. It's a little bit yellow, you can probably see that. So I'm just going to pour a little bit in there, turns all the water yellow. And you can put this in a watering can or whatever. I'm just going to use the bucket. Pour from the two sides there, it fill up most of the bucket. And then in my reclaimed locker planters here, I'm going to just do that and kind of give it little shots as I go. If you're wondering where the water came from, I do have a trash pump down the creek. I've got a video on that below me, and that is where I get water. If I do need to run a sprinkler on my garden, which with the volume of rain we've had, I certainly have not needed to do, but I fill up my big tank when I am running the pump, and so then I have water I can grab for things like this. So I use this on flowers and herbs. Around the house, I also use it on my bushes over here, where I've got raspberries. Don't look too close, they need weeded, I know, that's on my to-do list. The grass keeps coming through, but raspberries and mint, then more flowers, I've got irises and stuff, and I use this same fertilizer on everything. Just kind of pouring on a little bit at a time and letting it soak in. I'm trying not to pour on so much that it just all runs off, because I don't need my grass in the yard and brush and everything in the yard to grow any faster. And then, like I said, around bigger things, I actually just use the urine straight. I do not pour it directly on the leaves, but I do put it out kind of around the base of the plant. Over here I've got a honeyberry bush, an elderberry bush, and a currant bush, and all of those have been fertilized for the last 3 years with urine, and they are all huge and healthy looking. For this area, I realize some people live places where things get much bigger when they don't have to do all their growing in like 2 months before it starts snowing. I also use it around things like my poor little baby cherry tree, which does not look very healthy, but that is from moose damage to it several times, and then a really hard winter, not last winter but the year before, that nearly split the trunk in half. I wasn't sure if it would survive at all, but it is still growing, so it might grow out of that. But the parts that are alive have very healthy green leaves, and I'm going to give it a little fertilizer. So that is how I fertilize things, and I didn't take the time to show you, but I do this in the garden as well. This is the only fertilizer I use, other than composted material, which I work into my, or spread on my beds and such. But I do not buy any fertilizer, and it seems to work really well. If you've seen some of the recent pictures of my garden, everything is looking healthy except for where I've got vole damage, and this is just awesome because it's a way to reuse a thing that you're gonna make, I'm pretty sure, if you're a human being and not a robot, and it's free and very easy to do, and it's just really good for your stuff. But remember not to put it on straight, you will burn things, and Oh, and I was going to mention that people often say, well, and urine helps keep wildlife away. That might work in some places. I have found it makes absolutely zero difference. I have way too much wildlife here. And the fact that I use human urine around my gardens all the time has never seemed to deter them in the slightest. But good luck if that works in your area. Some places there's a lot less critters and maybe less motivated ones. So hopefully that gives you guys some ideas of another inexpensive way to make the things you're growing better. Thanks for watching, folks. If you're interested in more info on my off-grid tiny house life, check out some of my other videos here. And if you like what you're seeing, click the little picture of my house to subscribe and then hit the little bell so YouTube actually notifies you every time there's a new video available. See y'all next time.